Let's start.
But I'm happy to see so many of you are still here. You're not asleep yet. Okay. So next we'll talk about the obstructive and the restrictive lung diseases. So super important to determine which one you're dealing with. So obstructive processes, these all generally result in air trapping in the lungs. So that's the underlying unifying feature. And because of this air trapping, they have very characteristic pulmonary function tests. So, a significantly decreased FEV1, and an FEV1 is, or somebody. And what does it mean? Yeah, so after you take a maximum inspiration, how much you force out within the first second. Usually, it's 4 liters. Your forced vital capacity is the maximum amount you expel after maximum inspiration. This is usually 5 liters. So your normal percentage is about 80%. So you blow most of it out in the first second. So these obstructive processes significantly reduce the FEV1, or your numerator. So overall, you have a decreased FEV to FEC ratio. That's very characteristic. The 4 main entities that we're talking about when we talk about obstructive pulmonary diseases are emphysema, chronic bronchitis, bronchiectasis, and asthma. Clinically, typically when you're in the wards and you have a patient who's referred to as having COPD, they're referring to emphysema and chronic bronchitis, but just know that all of these are chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases. Just clinically, they're usually referring to these 2. So, the underlying pathology in emphysema, the most common cause by far is smoking. This is over 95% of the cases. A very distant second is alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. So not common, yes, it'll show up on tests, but in real life, smoking is what's associated with emphysema. And what you have is tobacco smoke that induces an inflammatory response. Your big actors are neutrophils and macrophages. The toxin directly inhibits the function of the alveolar cells, and it also promotes the release of elastases from these inflammatory cells, and it inhibits these anti-inflammatory mechanisms. So your anti-elastases and your antioxidants. So you have an imbalance between pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory mediators. This results in destruction of the epithelial cells, results in destruction of the mesenchymal cells, and you get destruction of that extracellular matrix. You need that extracellular matrix. You need those mesenchymal cells for appropriate repair. Because you destroyed them, you also have insufficient repair. So you knock out all the alveolar walls, but you don't have secondary fibrosis. So that's why here I stress destruction of the respiratory walls without fibrosis. We classify these into 2 main categories, central lobular and panlobular. So central lobular is the most common, that's associated with smokers. Classically, it's most severe in the upper lobes. And this results from involvement of the respiratory bronchioles with sparing of the most distal